All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. I'm super excited to have my friend Meena Khalili on. This, I think, maybe your third or fourth time. This new body of work, I just love. Like, I love collage. I have 5 weeks till my sabbatical starts. So, super inspiring to me. So, you moved to a new city. You moved to Louisville, Kentucky from Memphis?
No, from Nashville.
Nashville. But anyway, you were teaching somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then you got a new job, and now you're teaching at what school?
University of Louisville. I'm at the Height Art Institute. So we have this we have an entire art program inside of the University of Louisville called the Height Art Institute. And so that's where I am. We have a BFA, a BA, and MFA.
Oh, that's where Scott went to school, he said.
Yep.
Cool.
That's why I was like, hey, Scott.
Awesome.
Scott, you were in Type Hike too, weren't you? I'm pretty sure he was. But
all right. So feel free to put, this is your first time coming live, feel free to put your handle, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, however you want us to follow. I think it's always nice. Thanks, Doc, for putting it in there for us. So I can put my hit record down. So I'm going to not start how I thought I was going to start.
Okay.
Sort of, I guess. I did talk about, you moved last summer. So summer of 2016. Yeah, 2 summers ago, I guess. You are an illustrator. You're also a professor, and you draw a lot from life, but it's not, absolutely realistic, perfect perspective, right?
Right. Yeah, I'll let you keep going.
But I love that. Like it is recognizable, absolutely. But you have such a life. It has so much more life to it, I think. You started. So this is Andre's question: is what made you do a 365 project?
Well, so I moved 4 times in 3 years, and I moved, in 3 different cities. And I realized once I landed in Louisville, I realized that I was in my 3rd new city, and I really wanted to sort of be able to get to know it. I felt like an outsider a little bit, and then come to find out Louisville loves an outsider. But that's to be talked about later. I think I wanted to get to know the city and to sort of pause for a second, and to be a little bit more present while I was trying to get to know that city. So I felt like maybe a drawing a day would, even though it was ambitious, would probably help me do that.
So what's the difference between this style, and you may want to show something at this point, what's the difference between like this and what you were doing before? Because you were doing these kind of, some of these airplane, you were traveling a lot. You were also had this kind of, you have a moped, but I don't remember what kind it is. It's not a Vespa, right? It's the other one.
No, it was a Stella. Yeah, you're right. It was a Stella. Yeah. So here, I can sort of share these with you guys. Let's see, you're seeing everything now. Look at all that. Here, we'll go over here. So what I was doing before all of this sort of started was I had this series that I had started called Seatback Diaries. And I was traveling so much, and I was trying to also create stories based on the travels that I was that I had. And so like this guy right here, if you take a look at it, you're even seeing all of my screen, I'm sorry guys, but if you take a look at it, every single one of these bottles of liquor, and I love drawing bottles of liquor, so that's a theme apparently, but every one of these bottles of liquor is actually saying something. And they're saying the things that the people around me who were getting day drunk were saying. So everything that I do, and I'm gonna stop my share here. Everything that I have been doing it had a sort of narrative to it. It was either telling a story, hey, Mississippi, That's awesome.
That's Kent, my friend Kent. He teaches at a college in Mississippi, so they're watching. So hey, Kent.
Hey guys. What I was doing at the time was creating a sort of narrative inside of my illustrations. I was sort of infusing my surroundings. I was just trying to be super observant and take in everything that I was hearing and smelling and tasting, and trying to put those somehow into the visual two-dimensional thing that I was trying to.
How long would those take? Like, how long were you giving to doing this? And this was not an everyday project at this point, right? This is just when you're traveling. Yeah,
and I'm going to share the screen again just so that you guys can see again. But so here we go. If, these guys were really just, they were taking probably, I could give myself as much time as I wanted to on these. These flights, I would just draw the whole flight. I wasn't worried about, and this is when I, started dating my now husband, and, we were just sort of like falling in love. And these drawings, they get way more intense the longer my flight was. The shorter my flight was, the less crazy they were. You see a little creative South, shout out to there. So, I was taking as much time for those as I sort of wanted to. Now, when the 365 happened, I couldn't do that anymore.
So again, no pencil, you're just going straight to pen?
Yeah, I was in grad school, and I remember sitting at a coffee shop, and I was drawing the things that I could see around me, and this guy walks up to me, and he sees that I'm drawing, and I'm like, okay, cool, you're just watching me. And he goes, you must be really confident to start with a pen. And I looked at him, and I was like, well, I guess that's my job. Like, if nobody else is good, I'm supposed to start with a pen, so I'm starting with a pen. I don't know. I don't start all of my drawings with a pen, I certainly use a number 2 pencil.
But I also think that leads to it's something we've talked about before. It is kind of that sort of looser style. It definitely, you're still dealing with perspective. And it's one of the things that for me is inspiring me to kind of let go and not have, for it to be so perfect. But I don't think you've always been like that. I feel like it's something you've continued to develop. Was this 365 project, did this kind of allow you to let go even more?
Oh, yeah. Let go of my time spent hemming and hawing over layout and objects that I was drawing, and let go of my ego. Because I think, and one of your questions, I think coming up is something about, like, what was the hardest part? And there were a lot of hard parts. A lot of it was logistics, right? When and how and what.
Yeah.
But the unexpected hard part was something that I noticed right away. And it was the decision, the easy decision to make an Instagram handle that was going to hold all of these. And I was going to very neatly compartmentalize everything in, this grid of Instagram. Sharing the first really, sorry mom, shitty drawing. Like, that was the hardest part. And then every subsequent bad drawing that I made, not all of them, because there are only 365 of them, not all of them are really worth looking at. I think on this whole scale of them put all together, yeah, in terms of the gestalt of the entire project, absolutely, it that volume adds worth and value. But when you take them all apart, there are some that are just like, ooh, you had a bad day, didn't you?
But I think that's also the human part of it not having to be perfect. And I think that they all look awesome to me. Like, so how is it different? How was what you're doing with this, the new and Lou, different than what the old? Because as we saw the travel kind of, there wasn't really the collage aspect, which I love the collage aspect. So I'm digging into that. So
yeah,
I guess I should go with this question first. So how is it moving to 4 different cities in 3 years? Is that what it was?
Yeah. For 3 different cities in 4 years.
Okay. Either way, it's bad, right? It's a lot of moving. Yeah. I'm sure you have like one bag now, but How has it affected you? Because I think moving to a different city, so then it is kind of being able to put down roots. So how has those things affected you? Because sometimes starting over in a new city can be hard. Is that something you realized in these other cities, in Nashville and other places, that you're like, man, I want it to be different here? Is that one of the things?
I don't know about different, but just feeling like you know someone, or that you have a place that you go to and you feel it's that whole Cheers for the millennials. It's like where everybody knows your name. It's that sort of like that feeling of home. And home for me, and I'll share my screen again, because home for me does not necessarily mean, you know, the same place that I hang my hat. Home can mean, and we'll view full screen here. Like this was home for me, or could be home for me a few weekends out of the year. I would ride my, this is technically a motorcycle, but it's a scooter. And I would have my tent on the back of it. That's my old Mini that I would drive, you know. This is my group of friends. And this was a few years ago when we would travel up and down the East Coast. And the whole time, and that's me and where my mom used to work, the Capitol building. You know, all of these places that I was going and sort of traveling to and being, I guess, a little bit nomadic, these places were also home because I was with people. I was with my people. And when I left my people in Virginia, back in Richmond, that was tough. I mean, way harder than I ever let on to them, but very difficult for me. And my now husband saw how hard that was for me. And I think that my eagerness to sort of find that connection to a city like I'd had in Richmond for about 13 years was really something that I felt viscerally and in me, that I felt that I needed to explore. So exploring my city became the way that I would make connections with people, that there would be times where I'd be out drawing and somebody would say, like, walk by me and say, I wondered when you were going to come here, because they were following the project. And it was a little creepy, but really fun, you know, to like know that somebody was following the New and Lou Instagram and had liked something or hoped that I would come and draw their place or whatever it was. So it wound up being a way that the city, that I learned a little bit about the city, and the city learned a little bit about me. And I should sort of give some credit to Brent, my partner, who I put this idea by him before I did it. And I said, is it weird to draw every day, like this city every day? And he looked at me and he said, it's a good question, but I think you need to know that every city likes to be complimented. So you should probably do this. And so I did it.
So how big of a city is Louisville?
It's bigger than Richmond, Virginia, but it's actually quite big. We are a blue dot in a very red state. We are quite large and quite loud, and we party late. And just over the bridge, like you can walk to Indiana. It is a big little city. Absolutely, Scott.
So range-wise, if you're driving, you know, what kind of was your parameter and did you really plan this out, or you're like, Brent, we're going 30 minutes away, or we're going 3 hours away, or whatever?
I tried to stay as true to my day as possible.
Okay.
So that meant not doing a drawing before the day, which was hard sometimes because I'd have like a Sunday with time and I'd be like, no, you can't do that, because then it's not a 365, it's a 364, and then it becomes a 363. So
right.
That's not how it was going to work for me. So I would make a list of all the places. Like I would look at Yelp and I would say, okay, what are some places like bakeries, and I love drawing a bakery case, and bars, and different coffee shops, and different places to go around the city. Where do people go around here I'm learning about it. This is one of the ways that anybody would learn about it. And so I made a list of all the places. And the funny thing about small business and local economy is that your list can change because sometimes things will go out of business. So there are a few drawings that I actually was able to do that are now locked in history, but do not exist anymore in the city, even less than a year ago.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting.
It is. It's really interesting. I think Louise Feely,
Mm-hmm.
she did something like that, and she was in Italy, and this family came and like put the sign back up because she loved the sign. Like she flew back. Anyway, I just think it's it is so much of a place, and it's just amazing, I think. And I think it's really good that you were able to select. I also think it's really interesting that some of those people wanted you to come. So how long would a drawing take you? Because this is, at some days you may have more time than others. So what was the smallest amount of time you spent somewhere, and what was like the normal, and then what was the longest you would spend?
So I give myself about 30 minutes.
Okay.
Every drawing that you're seeing would be 30 minutes would be your typical average. Some days if I had like a little minute, like a minute longer, it would be maybe 45 minutes at the beginning. And I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to start showing some of these. At the beginning, let's get this one out of the way. At the beginning of the project, I would spend actually way too long on a drawing. And so here's one of the sketchbooks that's completed.
Did you make this sketchbook?
No, these are Moleskine sketchbooks.
Okay. You
can buy them like this.
Cool.
Yeah, they're about 100 inches long each. And yeah, so I would spend, and there's just some cards that they turned out to be, but each one of these drawings was, like this one in particular, this was about 30 to 45 minutes right here. Each one of these was probably about 30 minutes.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, and like this guy right here, the painter that starts off this sketchbook that goes into the forward, the painter was painting. I was stopped at a red light, and I looked over and I saw this guy, and he was doing this, and I said, okay, well, there's my drawing of the day. I can't not draw this guy. It's way too perfect. It's too cool. I got to do it. So I parked my car, and I sat there, and I drew him out, and then I went home, and I filled, like I had to fill in all this black here because I didn't have my big fat black marker. But then that was it. That was all of it, that there was to it. And a lot of these days, these days that I had, they didn't have that a lot of time. I'm a professor. I'm a designer. I run my own practice, and being a professor, like, is an extremely proactive career. You have to be 5 weeks ahead of any of the students. You have to be, you're grading, there's a lot of things, there's service, there's a lot of things that go along with it. So, when we say professor, there's just so much that we're not saying in that. So 30 minutes was really all I could devote sometimes to these. And so 30 minutes became the average.
Okay. So, Heba wants to know what this is like 5.5 by 8.5, I think. It's the big one.
Sorry, they're 3.5 by 5.5.
Oh, they're tiny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because 30 minutes is not a long time, guys. So when you're talking about filling up a page, let's see, this was when I was on my honeymoon, sketching out. So you're seeing a note from my husband. There you go. But there we go. So these are very small sketches because I couldn't give myself all that much time.
Are you preparing the pages at all? No. So some of them look like you have done collage before because you have the drawing going over.
Right.
So that's really a plan. You have to have a plan to put the paper down. Or did you do the drawing and then you came back and redrew lines on top of it? Like I was thinking about the New and Lou, you have this kind of green arch sort of pattern paper.
Yeah, so let's take a look at...
Because some of them look like the paper was down and then you just did some work on top. And maybe you're painting in white or maybe you're not.
So, so here's a couple of, this is a poster that was created from one spread of my drawings. And I think it's a really good example of what you're talking about, these collage elements. So both of these pieces of paper, and they're just two pieces of paper, were placed down the day of and right before I did my drawing. And
Okay.
a lot of them you can tell that the visual of the paper has something to do with the visual that has been drawn onto
Right.
it. The illustration has been drawn onto it. And then any, if we're talking in terms of you know, any painting that you might, or drawing that you might be creating with use of tones, you're going to be, and sorry, shade. You're going to be thinking about your background, your foreground, and your middle ground in terms of shade. So the darkest, the mid-tone, and the lightest. Well, these sort of pieces of paper back here where it says bicycle or gun, that's going to essentially act as my mid-tone. I've got this piece right here, the Royal, my mom's typewriter that she gave to me, acting as the darkest area. And then I have little areas here in which I've painted white. And that's it.
So you have an image of this, and I don't know if you can find it really quick, but you showed me kind of, and this was one of the promo images that I had used, because I was like, oh my goodness, are you lugging this stuff around? So are some of them you do like the one you had to fill in when you got home because you didn't have a big marker with you? Is some of this that you're doing right then, or it's just you're going to finish it within the day and you know what you're going to have to paint white?
No, I do it all right then, because I can't, that one with the painter was like maybe one of the only ones that I painted.
Okay.
Yeah. This is all happening right away. So I lug around this little guy. So this bag, or that there's a bag over there. Sometimes that would come with me if I felt like I needed more paper options. But I'm getting all the paper locally, so I'll go to antique stores and I will find these papers. They're not they're not a like something that I've been holding on to. They're things that are specific to Louisville or that I found in Louisville. And so inside of my bag, there is actually like
some papers.
Paper. Yeah.
Okay.
So here they are. And I totally don't take care of them. I mean, they're just in here along with all my other stuff. And you can see, like, even if I just grab some pens in there, what you're seeing is some Faber-Castell stuff. You see my light, you see my mid-tone.
So is that the white that you're using?
This is one of them.
Somebody did. Michelle actually sent me an email and wanted to know which what you were using. So if you could take us through the tools, that would be terrific, since we're talking about those now.
So I love a good gel pen, and I love some Faber-Castell markers. I also will totally, I will use whiteout. I'm not afraid to use whiteout if I need to. It's not archival, so watch out for that if that's something that you're worried about. It won't last over time, is what I'm saying. But these two have served me very well, and especially the gel pens, because you can get really, really small details with these guys.
Cool. So David,
that may be true, Doc.
David wanted to know, do you have a collections of scrap to paste in and draw on top of, or do they come from the locations where you are?
Come from the locations where I am. If I can find papers like in my direct vicinity, I will use them, especially and this isn't part of the New and Lou series. It's part of my, being on my honeymoon, but if there are papers that I can use that are directly around, like, or a stamp from the Egon Schiele Museum, I will use that because it's going to add a certain pulse, a certain life to the image that is specific to where I was, at least for me.
So, well, what about the black? Because that was another question that Michelle asked. So what about the, and I would also talk maybe about the glue stick, other tools that maybe people that are easy to carry. Is there some Faber-Castells, or there's some of your favorite because they're waterproof, or?
Yeah. I also like microns, so I'm a big micron fan. I like a 0.2 micron more than most, and I like a 0.05 micron as well. I'm going through this right now. So another thing that you can keep in mind is just walking around with one of these guys, usually on the end of an X-Acto knife, but I will just carry around X-Acto blades. You got to be careful, though, that you don't go through, like, the TSA with these.
Right.
I really do mean that. Like, I have accidentally, and I've been let through, I don't know why, but I have accidentally forgotten to take these out of my bag sometimes.
I have too.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, please don't take my holder. I'm like, let me just give you the blade. And they were like, okay.
I'll also save, like, pieces of, like, flowers. I'll flatten flowers and I'll put them in there too. So this is not like, you know, it's anything that's directly around me or that is influential of the area that I'm working on.
Okay. So what about the glue stick?
So I don't know that I've got one in here right now. I think I just killed it, like I spent it.
But the UNU or UN, what?
The Uhu, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uhu glue sticks. UHU.
Are those what, archival?
Archival? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So do you have to do both sides?
I don't do both sides because I don't want to over glue, because if I do, my micron's going to just die.
So what about, and I know I'm really getting technical into these things, but like, so with the new and Lou, the one that was like has the green, did you, because it has a cut and it follows the same cut as, was that after or before?
Okay, let's see about that one.
The one in the frame, which you can buy.
Yeah, you can buy those. Let's see, was it this one? No,
I think you're gonna have to stop screen share and then go back.
Golly, bummer.
I know.
Okay. Let's see. Exit full screen to find that. And I really want to look at it so I can answer your question properly.
Well, it's just like a pattern piece, but it's clearly it's curved. Either it was a curved sheet, or you had scissors or your X-Acto and you cut it, but it matched the shape. Like, I don't know.
There we go.
Yes. See that green? It's curved.
So let's enter full screen on this. Yeah. So I'm going to get really close to this. You see all that, like, hairy, fuzzy edge right there?
Uh-huh.
It's because I did one of those it's like a fold, and I would lick it and then break it apart from the paper. So that was done on the plane, and that's just all from my hand. Like I did that.
But you did it like before?
Yes.
Okay.
Before. And you know that because
it's a seat back
through. Yeah. I mean,
that's what I thought. I was like, did she just draw back over it or what? So, yeah. Okay. But then some of them look like you're putting it in, and it's maybe this one, or it's maybe not this one, but there's one where it's like looks like 3 windows of I don't know, of a building, and you're showing something in that building, in the windows. Do you know what one I'm talking about?
I don't. There's
Go. I think you passed it. No, it wasn't that one. Anyway, I can't remember which one. I'll find it.
Okay. Yeah, you do that. I'm not sure.
Now I'm looking. Sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
That's fine. So yeah, all of the pieces of paper, just to sort of answer it, all the pieces of paper that I'm using the collage are going down before the drawing goes down.
Okay.
They are my midtone. And when I was learning illustration, when I was in illustration school, starting with a midtone, putting a midtone down was the first thing that you would do. So that's what I'm doing essentially with the collage pieces.
I tried to just drag it over there. It's like in the, okay, tell me about the book. So I tried to find it on Amazon. I can't find it. Is it, Moleskine comes with different kinds. So some papers are thicker. So it was Uptown. It says Uptown. It has an awning that's black, and then it has 3 long windows. Do you know what I'm talking about now? Yeah. It's next to the doo-wop page.
Yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yes. So your question is about that one.
So that looks like it was done after. So you did the drawing and then you put the things in, or I don't know.
We are seriously going to go look at this so that I can get you an answer. I guess.
It's in the one that's it's kind of accordion out the photo. It's a bunch of, but it's kind of like zoomed in, but it's an accordion. It's not just of that one image.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm just going through all sorts of images.
Okay, and Hiva says she can't find the sketchbook either. So so Scott says tone tan sketchbooks are great. Automatic mid-tone.
Yeah.
Have you ever used those?
Yes, they are. They are awesome. They're super great. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, you will find this at one point. I guess I can look for it on my promos. Okay, you got it?
I did find it. I just need to share my screen now. Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, there. Uptown Cafe.
This right here.
Yes.
Yeah, that is done before any of the other stuff.
So
I put that down.
See.
So you can see the seam right there.
I gotcha.
And this is all white.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So paint or the markers?
Well, the markers are paint markers.
Okay. So it's the same thing. So that's why you have this tiny little book and these really thick markers.
Yeah. And it cuts your time down. I mean,
yes.
I don't know that I could do, when Noah Scalem was doing our
Skull a Day.
Yeah. When our friend Noah Scalem was doing Skull a Day, that was a 365 project. He's an incredibly talented guy and an incredibly successful 365. When he was doing that, he had skulls of all different sizes, but that included very, very, very tiny ones, maybe for days that were a little bit more difficult, or, he just didn't have as much time, or maybe medium-sized ones, things that weren't so big. So I think having a smaller size for me, it really helped me to be able to create within smaller boundaries so that I could actually get it done, maybe get it done to the best of my abilities on any particular day.
Cool. So Scott just shared it from Utrecht. So I'm going to copy it and I will put it in the show notes for sure.
Cool. Yeah.
I will try and, but it says Moleskine Japanese album accordion fold, right?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay. So the bleeding through is not that big of a deal, right?
No, okay. I didn't have any issues with bleeding through. Don't use a Sharpie, guys.
So with the pins you're using, you didn't have any
Faber-Castell is great for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Same with Micron.
So had you really used collage before?
Had I?
Yes.
So I was doing some collage work with my travel logs that I was creating when I was riding up and down the East Coast, and I was camping a lot, and would just sort of have one of these guys with me, and I would just draw on them day by day. And we actually have a design recharge that talks about that. And so I won't get too far into that, but I started picking up little pieces of paper that were right around our vicinity when we'd stop at a place for coffee or something like that. And that's when I started employing collage. In my opinion, I didn't have any reason to employ collage before, but having something that's pertinent to the actual place made sense.
And also just giving you that mid-tone is a really nice, and it really warms up a ton. And you had been doing some. I mean, you definitely have some that have you had used, but this was like because I think every single one of these has collage. So this was that part of the things you were going to do? It was going to be in Louisville. You're going to have something with collage. Was that a parameter that you set for yourself?
I actually started out not doing collage.
Okay.
I started this whole thing and I was doing full spreads. And I was, if you look at the first 10, it's just like, whoa, that's a lot going on. And there was no, for me, it didn't look like me. It looked like somebody who was trying really hard. And not that I don't try really hard, it's just that it looked a little labored. And it wasn't working out for me. And so I was like, all right, well, I used to do this thing when I was writing with my friends. Maybe I'll bring some papers in here and I'll see how that worked. And I did that. The first time I did that was at Sunnergoss Coffee. And that piece I felt really good about putting up on Instagram. And I remember, and not that this is like the big reason why we do this, but I remember that image garnered a lot of likes. And I was like, okay, so I'm right about this. Like, this is getting more appreciation than the things that I felt were too labored too. So I took that as a sign to keep on doing what it was I really wanted to be doing. It was just a confirmation that, these pieces needed a little bit more life.
So talk about like where you would go for inspiration. So you said you were driving. This guy's just there. Are you taking a picture of that quick, or you're just drawing off from life?
No, because we don't use our cell phones in the car. Yep. So, that's one of the things I kind of hate the new OS for the iPhone for a lot of reasons, but I do like the fact that there is like, you can't use your phone while driving. I like that. So anyhow, I would stop there and I would just draw it. And there were some weeks where like I was in meetings all week and I couldn't get out to go to any of the places
right.
that I wanted to draw or to meet any of the people that, like, I couldn't do anything. And so there's like a full week of just my shoes, just my feet, because all I saw every day in a meeting would be, my feet. So I was just drawing those.
So Kent wants to know, his class wants to know, how do you think you got better in the year of drawing?
That is a really, really great question. I stopped worrying so much.
About what day? Was it like day 60 or
different for everybody? But I think for me, it had to be probably about the third week or the fourth week in. I just had to let go because my new job had started. I mean, we're not even talking about that. Like, I came to Louisville because I was hired
right.
to do a job, and I'm starting this new job, and I'm like trying to piece out 30 minutes a day to draw something and like do this for who and why, and I'm having all these like nihilistic issues, and all of a sudden, I can't think about that so much. I can't be so in my head about what I'm putting down on paper, because I just have to believe that the practice of doing this is why I'm doing it. It's about the process. It's not about the final product. And somewhere inside that, I'm going to find some answers. And I did. But I think that in terms of the best thing that happened for me was just that you cannot be so concerned about your layout when you're just doing this. This is a practice, guys. It's for you, right? That was the thing. I'm a designer. Everything I do is for somebody else. Also, I'm a professor. Everything I do is for somebody else. I'm a wife. Everything I do. No, I'm just kidding. But like all these things that we do for everybody else, this one bit of my day was about me. So it was like it was when the sort of light went off that I really got to enjoy this process, and I really needed to be present in it. It helped me sort of turn off the worry about what this thing was going to look like or what the layout was going to be, and just to start bringing things in. And I'll tell you, as soon as I started to let the process be organic, to not be so like, I'm trying really hard to be somebody else. I'm trying really hard to do something that looks like somebody else's thing. I'm just trying to do this thing that comes from my soul. that was when it got so much, in terms of easier, I think I can use that word. It wasn't easy, but it got so much easier just to keep doing it and to allow myself the freedom to enjoy it.
So maybe there's a mental, it wasn't that because you're a wickedly good illustrator before this and after this. But really it was just the stuff in your head that either you were telling yourself or you were trying to meet these parameters that now you got more free. And that means more than being able to make some great stuff, I think.
Yeah. And I think we all do that. We have imposter syndrome. And I think that's something that we all battle. But everything is going to try and keep us down. Everybody's going to try and keep us down. We got to keep on pushing ourselves and believe that we can actually do it.
So, how did the process cross over into your teaching?
So it's not like I told my students to go out and do a 365 or even a 100-day project or even a 30-day project. Why not? Oh man. So the question of why didn't I do that? Because I think a 365 is definitely a personal undertaking. You have to have, it's like saying I'm going to start training for boxing now. And that is something that you have to have made that choice that you're going to now start training for this one thing that you want to do. You've decided you want to do it.
It's very personal.
I think so. And I think that anybody who's actually accomplished a 365, sorry, I just saw the word Baron story in the comments. I think anybody who's accomplished a 365 can tell you the same thing, that it's a really personal task because it takes a lot of you, and it also gives a lot back, but it takes a lot of you, and it takes a lot of time and effort. So I didn't do that, but what I did do is I started seeing in my own work that I had a lot of walls up about how creative I thought I was, or how I thought my creativity was best served for my work or for the work of my clients. And I realized that I had it all wrong. I really could bring a lot more to the table than I thought I could, even for myself. And so what I started doing with my students was I started asking more of them. And it is not easy to the faculty evaluations are not always easy, but they, in the end, their work has gotten so much better. And I talk about teaching fearless design. My most recent talk at CCAC was titled that. And a lot of my 365 project has inspired the way that I'm teaching design and technology, with just a belief that the more and more you do it, the more hours you put into it, the better and better you're going to be. And you may not even realize the power that you have behind the wheel of that of that technology. But there is a lot there, and you can do a lot more than you think you can.
For sure. All right. So I think you got married somewhere in the middle of this, this 365, right?
Toward the tail end, actually.
So you went to the previously country known as Czechoslovakia, right? The Czech Republic, right?
Czech Republic. Yeah. So I went to Prague. Yeah.
So you did not have Louisville sketches at this point. So were you still putting out for New and Lou?
Yes, I was. So there is actually a part of New and Lou that shows, this is one image that shows a drawing of a suitcase being packed. And that was the day before I left. And I think about the day before I left. And every drawing subsequent to that was an homage to a borough in the city. And I decided that for the last a little bit over 2 weeks of the project, of course, I wasn't going to be there. We planned that out really well. But for the last 2+ weeks of the project, I was going to work on my very sad hand lettering skills. And that was something that, again, the 365 allows you to do. So I'm human, and we've seen a bunch of good work, a bunch of bad work. We've seen the gamut at this point. And now I'm going to start throwing some more bad work at you guys. Like, if you're following and you're seeing this like really bad rendition of like the word Butchertown, I butchered Butchertown. That's not a good image. But some of them actually did start to look really interesting after like 2 weeks. After I'd been doing it every day, and I was trying, and I was really like really thinking about my line weight and how thick and thin the strokes were, and all sorts of esoteric design things. I started doing something that I knew I wasn't strong at. So that the last 2+ weeks became about the city borough names.
And you had gotten over yourself at some point much earlier with the illustrations, but then you had to retell yourself this about the lettering.
Yeah, here I am, a designer, a design professor, and I'm like, I'm not so good at hand lettering. Like, this is, we're not great at everything. Right. And here I'm getting these like, your work is awesome, and like, God, guys, I really appreciate that. Like, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Like, you hardly ever get a pat on the back, especially like, and so hearing it was really great. The few times I did or whatever, but like, it's like not all that great. Like I am still working on things, and so these things that I'm working on, like, let's make it obvious, like, we're not all like the rock stars that maybe some people think that we are. I try to be really clear with my students, like, there's a ton that I don't know, and there's a ton that you don't know, and the more you see like people being comfortable with that, like, I think the more fearless you'll be about embracing technology or embracing something that you're not comfortable with, or being a leader. And I think that is another lesson I try to teach to my students, but also to myself. Like, it takes a bit of humility to be a good leader, professor, designer, fill in the blank.
Human. So with those 2 weeks, were you working off of photos, or were you just working from memory?
No, so I didn't have like representational imagery that I was illustrating. So they were all just hand lettered. They were just words. So what I did was, on pink Post-it notes before I left, I wrote down the names of the different boroughs. So I had the Highlands, I had Clifton, I had like Frankfurt Avenue, Clifton area, Germantown, Schnitzelburg, all these areas of Louisville that make Louisville. And I said, okay, these are the words that I'm gonna draw these words, and they were still pertinent to Louisville. They totally made sense, and they, I think, round out the series really well. They're not just another drawing of another place. They're like, now we're at the very end, we're sort of like a John Williams orchestra piece. We're highlighting the very the very places that we did all these things, and like symbols at the very end of a piece of music. So that was sort of my plan there. But
So with the 365, one of the things that keeps some people going, some people can just do it as an internal project, but sometimes social media is great for this, that you have the accountability, that somebody's watching and you feel like you need to publish, right? So there's this thing, it's a commitment, and you're doing it. Well, so that can also be a burden, but it can also be a blessing because you continue to keep doing it. I don't think you planned on having, you said it earlier, this is for me. This is something you had to kind of get over from yourself. So it became this thing for you that you were just sharing with other people. Yeah. Was that part of the hard part, or was that part of the easier part for you?
Well, also let me step back a year ago. I've been a designer for the better part of a decade. I have a BFA in illustration, but I've been a designer, and I really felt like I needed to get back in touch with my illustration roots, with the whole reason why design actually spoke to me. And it was that mixture of type and image that really, still just does it for me, and I love it. So I went and I started this project having been a designer for years, my clients did not know me as an illustrator. They didn't even know that I did anything like this. A client of mine right now is having me hand letter stuff because they know that I can do it. So, you know, they didn't know that this was something that I did. And it wasn't something that I even thought that, you know, I could offer before. And so that's sort of one of those things that, you know, I'm teaching my students to be fearless. But sometimes, you know, I just didn't even know to offer it. So your question, can you say it again? Because I wanted to be really clear about.
No. So was being, putting it out there, was that easier for you? Did that make producing it easier, or was it harder because you were having to produce it?
Okay. So accountability, I need a trainer. I need a coach. I don't need cheerleaders, but I need somebody barking at me to tell me to do a thing. It's just who I am. I'm super competitive, but I need somebody to tell me why I need to be competitive, what I need to do. So Instagram, social media, Facebook, and all that stuff, it actually became the very powerful vehicle that I needed to remind me every day, like, oh, did you put that up? Are you going to make the time? It's 11:30. Have you done it, Meena? Yeah. So like all those sorts of things, that I couldn't do on my own, that if I didn't get it out there and the timestamp wasn't on there, then did I ever even really do it? Right. It really helped me to be accountable. And it was totally selfish. I mean, it was completely all for me to keep accountability. But the repercussions of that are that you also are putting it out there and people see it and, you know, they comment or they like it or they don't. And, you know, you gain a following and, you know.
And so with clients, they're able to see this. If you had just done one piece, they might not still know that you know how to do this. But I think taking the time to have a series, I think a series is incredibly important. It doesn't have to be 365, but I think a 30-day, 100-day. I think 100-day is probably a really good series because it pushes you past what is obvious or whatever. So you have to get past some of the bad ideas and you have to get some of the bad ideas out.
Yeah. But you know what I call that? You remember what I call that, right?
I can't remember.
The shit hammer.
Oh yeah, that's right. I do remember
all the bad shit out before the good shit start coming through.
Right, and it's super true, right? Because we have lots of bad ideas, but sometimes we just think that they're so clever, but everybody's already thought of those. So, but you started a new Instagram handle. What was your thought behind doing that? And because you could have just done that as because your Meena Khalili handle kind of took over. I mean, it was a lot of these same drawings. It wasn't like you were doing a drawing for Meena Khalili and then you were doing another drawing for New and Lou. I think sometimes there were some different things in the Meena Khalili posts than there were. Yeah.
So like the Meena Khalili gets to have, you know, the European trip, and Meena Khalili gets to post pictures of her dog, and Meena Khalili gets to do all this stuff. But it does not really make sense for New and Lou to do that. On the flip side of the coin, yeah, okay, so Meena Khalili could have all these drawings. Sure. But New and Lou sounds a lot more catchy than Meena Khalili. So
I don't know. Meena Khalili is pretty good.
Maybe. I mean, I think so. But yeah, so I decided that New and Lou would be the handle that I used. And I also thought that it would allow me to sort of separate from my life. Like, again, we are professors, we are designers, we have clients, we have spouses, we have children, we have dogs, we have all sorts of things in our life that we are doing for other people or that they are doing with us. And this little like chiseled area of the Instagram sphere was just a place for this project. And I still think it was the right idea. I will sort of make some cross posts from Meena Khalili and to Facebook and stuff with it. And I think that's great, but it allows anything that's New and Lou specific to just sort of live in one spot. Any news, any exhibits, any sales, any images, that's just all right there. Almost like a little website. And I think it works really well.
All right. So, but you didn't come at this project being like, I'm going to have 3 shows and I'm going to sell these prints. This again was in your head. This isn't, and I think that is a problem of a designer as well. Maybe it's just entrepreneurs, but I really do feel like I'm like, oh, I'm just wasting time. This looks like crap. Like I say that to myself all the time. Like, why are you doing this, Diane? This isn't going to amount to anything. And I have to get over that from myself as I'm learning something new, right? Because I don't want to waste time. So much of my time is so, you know, I don't know, sucked up, right? Yeah, so I don't want to waste my time, but I also really want to learn. But it's the hurdle that I know that's the one I'm going to have to get over. But you did. This was extremely successful. But I also think that you really kind of stuck, once you kind of figured out what your parameters were, you stuck with it, and then you did the series. And you had this really long series that was very, very successful. You've had a bunch of shows. I think it's still touring. And you're selling prints, and you're doing something really neat marketing-wise. You're releasing these prints, not all at once. Hey, go buy Meena's prints, which I'll put a link out. But how often are you releasing these prints?
Okay, so let's talk about this. So before the project was completely done, I was asked if I would show it, and I was really thrilled that like the project wasn't even done, and somebody wanted to show it. That's great. Unfortunately, I haven't shown the full thing in Louisville yet. And so I actually want that to happen. I think that would be really great. I've shown bits and pieces of it, like a lot of it in Louisville I've shown, but not the full completed series. All of the pieces have shown in Kentucky, in Louisville, some in Louisville, and in Illinois. So it's shown in Illinois as well, which is just great that like Illinois Wesleyan University wanted to show it and used it as a teaching tool as well there in their space. And, you know, if anybody is interested in having the show at their school, like really and truly hit me up, because that is.
How would they hit you up? How would you want them to reach out to you?
Email is great. Yeah. Meena.Khalili@louisville.edu or at gmail.com. Either one is going to be perfect. And I'll get back to you. I would love to hear from you if you're interested in showing it at your school or your gallery, anyone. But I didn't have any plans for this project. And I think it's also like a really, really good thing to not have a plan necessarily in this particular instance. Yes, as designers, we're like supposed to know the whole life cycle of our projects, and we need to know how the information is going to get disseminated through what channels, what media. But in this instance, again, because it was something that was personal, it was 365. It was about a city. It was about falling in love with a new city, and about one person's life every day in this new city. I did drawings in Nashville, in Owensboro, Kentucky, which is where Johnny Depp is from. I did not know that. I did drawings all around Chicago and places like that, because when you live in Louisville, you are close to Cincinnati. You're like so close to all these really cool cities. And I think that, you know, a lot of times people are like, oh, Kentucky, ugh. Or like, oh, being landlocked sucks. And like that may be true for you, but for the people that live here, it's actually pretty rad. And there's a lot of life that's happening in the city and outside of the city, and a lot of growth happening in Louisville right now. So I did not have any plans for what it was going to end up with. Yeah.
Do you think it helped you meet new people and kind of find that home base quicker than maybe it had when you were at other cities?
Yes, I really think it did. It not only put me in touch with people that were like running things in the city, but also social groups. I didn't know we had a New to Lou group here, but that's a thing. So yeah, New to Lou, like that's a marriage that you see. And Yelp Louisville has interviewed me and like I've been a guest social media presence for them a few times just because of the project. So in terms of the releasing the prints and things like that, you know, how was I going to know if any of the images were going to be worth reproducing? Like, I think that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself when you're trying to just get better at something.
Okay, so you didn't know that and you've picked some. You're not actually releasing all of them, right?
I just picked some. And if like you had, say you owned one of the businesses and that wasn't one that was being printed, well, just, I've had people shoot me a line and say, hey, my husband now owns this particular place, the Hilltop Tavern, has now become something. It was the Hilltop Theater. It's a landmark in Louisville, and it's been redone, and it is now a delightful restaurant. And the wife of the man who owns it contacted me and asked me, yeah, Scott, you can walk there? Awesome. Apparently they have one of my pieces now, because they contacted me and asked me if they could, if I would sell them one. So, if people are interested in their own piece, like, of course I can make that happen. But the big thing was, how do you create all this work, then choose which ones you're going to create or reproduce, and then find somebody who's going to reproduce the work.
Right. So that's pretty interesting. Can you talk about, so quickly, I know, and I would still kind of like to know what you were doing. I know you got to probably go to class, but.
No, I'm good.
How were you deciding to release? Because you're releasing 5 a week, is that right? Until a certain time in December?
Yeah. So I'm releasing 5 a week on my Instagram through a local print shop in Louisville. And that was a really, really, really important thing to me. I have nothing against, other on-demand print venues. They're great, and they're great. I don't need to sing their praises, but it was really important for me to keep everything in Louisville. So when Material Print Shop came to me and said, hey, if you're interested in doing this, we can help facilitate that. And I said, okay, let me think about it. And I thought about it for a while because I didn't think I was ready. And then I decided, okay, let's go ahead and make this happen. So Material Print Shop, Michael Winters is my connection there. He's a great guy, runs a great business. And so what we're doing is every week, through the end of November, up until the very beginning of December, we're releasing 5 images every week. And they vary in size from the 4x6 to the spreads, which I love the spreads because they started creating a narrative that was like completely non sequitur. And I thought that was really fun. And so these spreads are intact as to how they are in the books. And those are 8x10s. And then I'll have some posters as well available.
So then Scott asked, did you run into anyone stopping you from selling a print because it had their logo on it or something that they felt was their intellectual property?
I have not yet. And if that were to happen, like I would have that conversation. I mean, I think that's a really great question, but I have not had that issue yet. I mean, if anything, it's just garnered, and I've tagged every single person that has been, I'm sorry, not every person, every business that's been a part of it. I've tagged it. I've put it in location. I've like made it really clear, almost like I'm basically saying, hey,
an advertisement
forget
in a
about
way.
That place. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is advertisement, and it really is. So yeah, I would be happy to have that conversation with somebody, but no, it hasn't happened, and I certainly hope it won't.
So, do you think the response online has been bigger than Louisville?
Yeah, it seems to be. Yeah.
Right. I think so. I think it's been a really good thing for the city and for you to be getting involved with it, but it has had a more global response. What are some things that you saw as really you're doing a 365 project that's an illustration project and collage, right? But then you're also doing this online. So you're seeing what is what times of day, what you're ending up doing a case study on 365 projects or posting on social media on a daily basis. So you kind of see what ebbs and flows, what tags work, what don't. Yes. So you kind of did 2 projects in one, I think.
Yeah.
What did you learn from doing that? Because I think you learn and then you pivot and then you learn and it's continual. What worked for you a year ago might not work today, but what did you learn? Because I think we all would like to know some of that.
Absolutely. Well, at the very beginning of the project, Instagram had changed their algorithm to like adjust, or they readjusted their algorithm, right? So we were seeing things that we didn't necessarily know that were posted like 6 days prior. And so I did see a lot of likes that were jumping around in date. That was a little bit odd. But then another thing that I noticed was particular days of the week would get more hits than other days of the week. Particular
what were those?
Tuesday and Thursday are a really good time, or really good days to post something, and Sunday night. So you got to think about like, what are your habits when you're looking at Instagram or you're looking at your social media? And of course, different social media is for different people. So
sure.
While I didn't use Snapchat for this, I could have used Twitter, but I decided not to. And I just stuck to Instagram and Facebook because they were both very visual for me.
And connected already.
And they're already pre-connected. Yeah. And that was great.
Did you use the pre-connection feature?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Absolutely. I was cross-posting everything to my Facebook, and it was great. Hashtags are really important. Make sure to use them and use them wisely. Look at your hashtags before you use a hashtag. Make sure it's the right hashtag, and make sure it's not like some weird, creepy hashtag. You just be aware of what is behind all of that stuff that you're posting. And also taking a look at the audience that you want to reach, who is reaching that audience, and taking a look at what they're posting will really help you to tailor the posts that you're making as well. That's a really good, I think maybe some of the best advice that I can use there.
So Doc says, how do you learn what the best tags to use are? I think you do some searches before you start. Okay.
Going and taking a look at the client base that you want to have and seeing what they're doing.
Right. I kind of want to say that. So for you in Louisville, it's helped you get some clients or do some clients that you already had, right? But maybe it's helped you, it has more of a commercial bent to it, or you're able to sell more prints. That's more who the audience is. It may not be as much client based. It may be. I don't know. But again, Tuesday, Thursday in Louisville and Sunday night worked for you. Yeah. But you kind of have to have enough time. How much time do you think it took for you to kind of make some of those assessments?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think over the course of about 6 or 7 months, because a lot of it was just really me. I was just in the motion of me doing it and posting it and getting it out there. Like that was the MO. And then eventually it turned into, I'm starting to analyze. There's some analytics that are happening now. Okay, so this particular one did really well, and this one didn't do so well, but I thought this one was so much better than that one. What time of day did I post that one? What day of the week did I post that one? Oh, I see. I posted it at this particular time, and it didn't really get that much like because it didn't have that much exposure as the other one did. Maybe I posted one at 11:30 at night or 11:50 at night because I had a really long day, and it didn't get a lot of likes or exposure. Same goes for the opposite side of the day. If you're posting something at 5:50 in the morning and thinking, okay, well, I just got to check this off my list, you might be you might actually be missing a whole lot of people because they're not up. And another thing, if your posts don't have a lot of comments, the likelihood of them being seen again is lesser. So if your posts have comments, that's really good to get them to be re-seen. So these are just little things that to be honest to you guys, before Diane asked me these questions about a week ago, I hadn't had the time to sit down and really think about what I learned in terms of the social media side of things, in terms of the algorithm working for me or against me. And so it's been actually really good to have these conversations. Talk to your friends.
So I do think engagement is really important. It is. Did you find that some types of images, now granted, you're not, you're posting different things, but like you have some buildings, but then you also had some trucks, was there some that got more response because it had more of a memory, it connected with people, or it was a hashtag that was more general, or was there anything kind of that you could find? I just wondered about that because I do think comments is where the power of social media is. It will get in people's feed more the more comments are there. I don't know if you saw anything like that.
Yeah, I think the ones that were specifically timely to like a specific event that was happening in the city. So like when Thunder over Louisville, which if you guys don't know, Thunder over Louisville, it's when all like I'm gonna sound like such a new Louisvillian. All these planes fly over Louisville, and that is like the dumbed down version of what happens. It is a humongous event. Thunder over Louisville has to do with just a lot of things that happen around the city, but it feeds into Derby. So Derby, again, if you guys didn't make the connection, Kentucky Derby, this is where it happens. So when those weeks started to roll around, my posts, the pieces that I knew that I wanted to create, and I had thought all year about what I was going to do around this time, I started to create works that were engaging with Thunder over Louisville, with the cocktails. So I did an entire week of just cocktails. I did the mint julep, I did the Oaks Lily, I did all of that. We party for 3 weeks and then a 2-minute horse race, and that is the truth. This city loves a good party. So anything that I was creating around those festivities to engage with the physical things that were going on, and also, also with my work, was getting a little bit more interaction.
So after you release all these, are you going to stop releasing them, or are you going to continue? Like during Kentucky Derby, is that going to be a time that you'll release those? You're going to hold those out for something like that?
Likely. I'm not really sure when those are going to come out, but they are definitely going to come out. That is those are some of my favorite pieces. So, see ya, Heba. Yeah, those will come out. I haven't figured out the timeline of that yet. And I might want to do something a little bit different for their release as well.
So Doc had another question. I think we've kind of covered everything. We didn't get to type hike, and we didn't get to, we'll just have to do that again next time. But Doc said, do you find that stating a question for people to engage with your post helps the comments? I don't know if everybody reads everything. So I feel like maybe I write too much. So is it really important that I have all that stuff in there? I love this question. Did you have a comment on that?
I think it's always good to state a question. I think specifically if you're leading something, if that's your lead in and you've got a question, like I think this past Monday, or one of these Mondays, I can't remember, time is tough. But I think I started out with got the Monday feels, well, this series will help, there's like little fun things that you can inject. But questions are always good for engagement. I completely agree with that. But in terms of the length or the volume of information, I try to curtail it because we're teachers. People don't read. People don't feel like they've got time. Let's be kinder. People don't feel like they've got the time to read everything that you put out there. So I'm trying to parse it out in ways that are super digestible and really, really short, hoping that I'll be able to engage. But all of this is learning. We're just sort of trying to figure it out and hoping that our audience is engaging with us because we're being genuine. We're being genuine to them. We're not trying to put anything over on them. And I think that that's a really big part of it, being genuine.
Right. I totally agree. Anyway, so it's super inspiring. I am inspired. I am very scared about my sabbatical because I am going to try to do something, post something. But you have given me a lot of helped my nerves, I guess. So I appreciate it. And I actually really appreciate you kind of breaking it down and being honest that there were parts that even you had to get over, which I think you're an amazing illustrator, but you still had to get over certain things, which it's just nice to know that we never get over that. Like, even though you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's something that we always have to work on. And doing what we do as creative people, I think we really have to be able to articulate the value of what it is that we do. We can't always see it. So showing it in the best that we can, articulating it, like being able to say, this is what we bring to an experience or to the table, I think is a really, really important and valuable thing for us. So we have to be able to work on that. And it starts with us. We have to start, seeing that worth inside of what it is that we do before we can start to articulate it to other people that really need to hear it.
Right, for sure. Well, Meena, I'm going to share these links. So just for anybody who's listening on iTunes, you missed out on a bunch of stuff that we got to see. But if you want to see some stuff, you can go to her site is Meena, Meena, and then Khalili, Khalili. It's really not that difficult to say or spell, people. But definitely check her stuff out. On that site, you can find where to get the prints, and you can purchase those, and their new prints will be available. 5 new prints will be available each week for a few weeks.
For a few more weeks. I'm unveiling
that, or you could just go directly to materialprintshop.com/store/Meena-Khalili. And then if just for anybody listening, you can check her out on Dribbble at Meena Khalili. Just dribbble.com. Dribbble is 3 B's. Meena /Meena Khalili. And then the new in lieu is Instagram.com, new in lieu, LOU 365. And I'm putting all these in the chat right now.
Awesome.
And then just Meena's regular Instagram handle, where you get to see Cash, the dog, who's super cute, is just Meena Khalili. And then Twitter, Meena Khalili. And then any other links. So she did share her Gmail and her other one, which I only got the Gmail because it was a little bit easier. I think it was lou.edu.
No, the Gmail's fine.
Okay. The Gmail is meena.khalili@gmail.com. So
if you want to show my work, let me know.
And really, you would also do like an artist lecture or something. They could fly you down, and if it was traveling or somewhere you could drive to, you would be happy if people put you up for the night and you could talk about your work, right?
Listen to Diane, everybody. She knows me. Yeah.
But I think that would be a really neat teaching experience as well. And you've done workshops. You could do all kinds of things like that. So we didn't get to what's coming up, which I think is really some of the stuff you've done, letterpress in Italy. We just need to schedule you back in. So we'll get that done because there's a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, it's not illustration heavy. This is type and moving image is coming up next.
Yeah, so we'll get that scheduled. And just so you guys know, we have Andrew Berkemeyer. He is in a tiny town. I know that it's a tiny town because one of my best friends from high school, she lives in that town, and he works for an in-house company. And I think there's always some struggles that in-house people face that other people don't face. Sometimes it's you're alone. You're the only designer, solo designer. So we're going to talk about some of that and just how he stays creative. He's also a singer and songwriter. He just has a ton of energy. I can't wait to have him on. So he's next week. We have 3 shows or 4 shows. There's a hair and I can't find it. Oh, there we go. I got it, I think. I just kept reaching and I couldn't see. Anyway.
Talk about being genuine. This is Diane.
I know. My mom's probably like, it's still not short enough. But I do think having the in-house kind of play is going to be good. Then we have Austin Saylor, just to kind of give you guys an idea. And he just is launching his November 20th is animating type course. So you might want to be interested in that one. I don't do December. I only have one, Kim Pinella, who did this poster, if you can see it. She's a chalk artist. She's an illustrator. She's a letterer. She is amazing illustrator to be on, not just in chalk, but she's got some great tips. And then I think that's it. And then I'm going to do a rapid recharge over Thanksgiving. So just a few more. So Austin and Andrew, then Austin, then the rapid recharge, and then one in December. So we've got 4 more. So you were number 5. So it's just perfect. 5 for the end of the year. And it really does give me a really good head start for my sabbatical. So thank you so much for being Thank you so much for being inspiring to me. And I'm really glad that you're my friend. So.
Oh yeah, the pleasure is all mine, Diane.
Well, I'm going to hit stop. So see you guys next week. And if you need me, you can always email me at diane@rechargingyou.com, or you can sign up if you're listening on iTunes. You can always rate it. That would be great. You could always, would love to see you give it a rating that helps it go up. And that's it. So we'll see you next week.